Are you learning a new language and feel like all your studying is in different places and it's impossible to find any notes you've made in the past? Hello and welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to show you my Notion template that will help you reach fluency in any language. I've been learning Korean for almost 4 years and have constantly struggled with all my notes being in multiple notebooks, having to search through all these different textbooks trying to find just one certain grammar point, and not having one combined system to learn all my vocab. To simplify things, but to also encourage more frequent language learning, I've created this language learning Notion page, and today I'm going to go through the template and show you how I use it. So without further ado, let's get to it. So this is the homepage of the language learning template. All of my templates come with a little intro section that you can just delete after you've read it, and you don't need to keep it. To do that, you can just click on these dots and press delete. All of my templates also come with page and template guides where they're needed, and they just explain how each of the sections work if you don't watch the video or if you forget. And you can either just keep these here if you are new to the page, or you can delete this as well, and you just do that the same way. So let's go through the different sections in the homepage and I'll show you how they work. First is the quick add section. This just has a few different buttons for commonly used databases so that you can quickly add entries. To do that, you just click on the button and it'll automatically open a page and you can start filling it out. Next is the databases section. This has all the different pages that are involved in this template. The way I have designed this is so that you can do pretty much everything from the homepage, so it is not often that you actually need to go into these pages to use them. However, I will show you what they all do. You can also use these pages to locate any entries that you need to find from the past. Under that is the weekly plan. These are just small columns that you can manually type in, whether it's a resource or if you're learning multiple languages at once, which language you want to learn on which day. This is just so you can quickly look at that and on the day that you're looking to study, see what you are aiming to do for that day, and as well as assign specific free days if you want to take some time off. In the middle section, this first block is a count up widget. This is a separate web page that's just embedded in. When you get this template and you want to change it, you can just click this arrow here, which will open you to the original page, and then press new count up. You can then make the count up however you want. The way that I've done it is just having days by changing the units and making it horizontal and not showing the unit names. You can then also customize what color you want your text to be, what font, if you want a background, and then when you're finished, you just press make count up, copy this link, back on the template, press these 3 dots in more actions and choose replace and paste in that link. And you'll see it'll reload with the design that you've changed to, and you can just resize it how you want. The widget settings won't save, so if you do want to change it, you will have to make the design all over again. You can't just open it up with that design and change one simple thing. That's just unfortunately how this widget works, but if you don't want that, you can delete it and try and find another one. There's plenty of other widgets that can be embedded into Notion that do similar things. This was just the one that gave me the design that I wanted. Under the widget is the main area of the homepage, which is the monthly study calendar. This is just a calendar view of every session added to the study log database over here. And when you add to this calendar, it will show the session as well as the amount of time that you spent. On my personal page, I do everything from this calendar pretty much and directly make new sessions and then make notes from those sessions. So I will show you how this works. If you click the plus where you want to add a session, it will pop up with a new page. You can call the page either if you're doing a specific resource or a specific language, so textbook 1, and then you can connect it to multiple different other databases. So the resource would also be textbook 1. If you don't have the resource yet, you can add it directly from here, or you will also see all resources you've previously added. The learning types, I have added all the typical ones, but you can change if you want this a different way. So say this is reading and grammar. And then for the study tracker, you can add what year and what month you're studying to. So 2025 and June. I'll go over a bit more what all these different relations are and do when we get to that point in where they are in the template. Then, depending on how you study, you may want to add notes either from a single session, or maybe you're doing different units or chapters of a textbook or some other resource. And so you can then just click add notes, and then you can create a new note. So let's say Unit 1. Once you've created that, you can open it up and you'll see it's automatically linked to that study log, and you can then add the resource that you just did as well. Inside this also has a template guide, which you can delete at any time. You can also delete it from the template itself so it stops showing up. In this section, you can just write a summary of things you want to remember from your study of the unit or the chapter or whatever it is, or the session. And then you can also add any vocab. Any vocab you add here will be directly linked to this note, and so you can find it later like that. Once you've finished writing all your notes for this session and you're ending the session, you can then put the time that you've spent in minutes in this box. So say we spent 90 minutes in this session. When you close it, you will then see it on the calendar as 1 hour and 30 minutes. This is a formula that I've put in that is hidden normally, and it will just calculate total time spent in minutes and transfer it to hour and minutes. As you can see, this 1 hour and 30 minutes has also gone into the 2025 study summary, and we'll get to that in a minute and explain all that and how it works. Below the calendar is current goals. This is just an overview of any active goals that you currently have, so you can quickly keep track of them on the home page and update them if you complete any steps. And then on the right side, we have this study summary that I was talking about. It will show the total time spent in each period for any sessions that you mark as being in that time period. You can also change the monthly session template and have the study tracker track a certain time period each time, say 2025 and June, so that each time that you make a new page, you'll see it's automatically 2025 and June. Sometimes you might not want to do this if you don't study very often and you might forget to change, say, the month. You could have just the year, or you could have nothing and manually input it every time. I will explain how you decide which time periods you see in this area when we get to the study tracker page itself. Lastly, on the home page, we have the daily vocab. I created this section based on the spaced repetition method, which is a method where information is reviewed at spaced intervals to improve long-term retention. Any vocab added to the vocab database will have a due date based on when it is that you last got the answer wrong. When you're reviewing, just increase if the level is right or tick if it's wrong, and it will disappear and show up again when it's next due based on that. Vocab can either be added when you are adding notes like I showed before, or at any other time just by itself. So this will show all vocab from all resources all in one place. This helps with issues with apps like Duolingo or even Quizlet or Anki, where you find that you'll have specific sections for certain resources or certain learning vocab, and you aren't studying them all at one time, and you will forget a certain unit's vocab just because you haven't seen it in a long time. That's all for the homepage. Like I said, I designed it so that I very rarely need to click off it. However, we'll go through all the other pages in varying depths so I can explain each database's functions. The first page is goals. This is the most pagey page, all the others are mostly just databases, and this is the one that I do go into the most apart from the homepage. It is split into major goals and individual goals. If you'll see my content creation page, this is similar to just goals and action steps. This is just the way I created it when I made this template a while ago. You can add goals based on either time periods or a specific goal itself. It's up to you. For myself, I have them divided by the current quarter, the current year, and lifetime goals, and then have each individual goals in each of those time periods. Individual goals are for steps within the major goal, so you can track the overall progress within that goal itself. When there are multiple active major goals, these individual goals will be grouped by each of them so that you can easily see each individual goal in a major goal in one location. So let's go through creating a major goal to show how everything works and links. Click New Page to create a new goal, and it'll show up on the side. Like I said, you can call the goal either a specific goal or a time period. So let's say 2025 goals here. There are no properties you need to complete in a major goal except for the complete checkbox. When you have finished a goal or it's no longer a goal that you are aiming towards, you can check the complete button and it'll disappear from this active view over here and move to complete. Total complete will show how many individual goals you have in this goal and how many of them are marked as complete, which will then feed into the completion tracker just as a more visual way to show the progress. Within this page, you will see all individual goals that are linked to this goal. Because I like having them as a more visual view, I do have the individual goals as a gallery view. However, if you're adding multiple individual goals at once, you can go to this Add New section and use that to easily put in the information you need. So if we add a new goal, why has it done that? I think that's a new thing with the Notion change, but anyway, when you add a new goal and it shows up in the table, you can name it whatever the goal is or the step you want to take. And then you can add in a target completion date so that you can keep track of your progress. When you add an individual goal within the major goal itself, it'll automatically link it to the major goal, as you can see here. However, if you add it from this main page and you don't have a goal yet, you will need to create a new group or create a new goal first. But if you click new page here as well, it will automatically link to 2025 goals or whatever the goal is called. You can also add covers that help inspire you for what you want to get done. You can either add these from Unsplash or create your own images and upload them or link them. When an individual goal is complete, you just click this checkbox and you'll see it disappears from this view and the goal itself is now 50% complete. If you're looking for complete goals, you will find them here. The complete view in individual goals will show any individual goals that you have marked as complete, or if you've completed a major goal before you've finished all those individual goals because you no longer needed that step or you just forgot to tick it, they will also show up here. That just keeps the active view much cleaner so that you don't see goals that you've completed and they're little steps that you just never did or never had to do. I'll show you that. If we open 2025 goals and tick complete, you'll see that now that extra goal has disappeared from this view. And you will see it here, even though it itself is not complete. Just because the major goal is complete, it showed up. And you'll see the major goal is now over here. Any major goals that you see in this active view is also what you'll see on the home page. So on the home page here, we'll see 2025 goals. If we once again complete it, it will disappear. This is just so that your current goals aligns with only goals that you are actively working on right now. That's everything for goals, so let's go to notes. This is just where any notes you create either through the study tracker or anywhere else are stored so that you can find them again later. As we said before, they can be linked to a resource, a learning type, and a study log. If you have a lot of different notes on different resources or learning types and you want to see specifically just one view, you can always create a new database view just to see that one type. So say we just want to see any notes that were created under the resource textbook 1. You can right click on this, duplicate, and then go to filter and filter by the resource of textbook 1. You can also rename this so that you know that is the view just for textbook 1. And if we created another note here, say chapter 1 of textbook 2, you'll see if we go to textbook 1, you won't see that, only anything labeled textbook 1. If we have a quick look at the other hidden properties within this, there is created date and last edited. Both of these are automatic. You don't need to touch them. They're just based on when the note was created or last changed. Within the default view, it will sort backwards from last edited date. So the most recent note that you've altered is first. However, you can change this in the sorting if you want it a different way. There is also a relation to vocab. As I said before, in the home page, any vocab that you add here will automatically be related back to this note and so will show up in this relation section. So say we add a word like chat, which means cat in French. You put in the word in your target language and then you use this area for English translation. And so you just put in the translation and add it to the word bank if it doesn't exist. I will explain how this English translation database works when we get to that page. You can enter new vocab here to automatically relate it to the note. But if you're getting to the point where I am, where you are deep into study and you are seeing vocab multiple times in different notes and resources, you can open the vocab page at the same time, find that piece of vocab and then relate it to the note from that page. We'll go through how that works a bit more when we get to the vocab page. It is a bit tedious this way, but if it's a word that I know well, I just don't add it to the note. And I often have just gotten used to having the home page and the vocab page open at the same time. Vocab is actually our next page, so let's go to that now. On the vocab page, there is a master list based on your target language as well as an English word bank. Because I was running into a lot of issues with having duplications in the vocab list, I created the separate English translation database just so that I could easily see if I already had the word yet or not. The word bank is all English translations that you have ever put in, and I've separated them into parts of speech just for easier searchability. In the vocab list, there are a few different views, so I'll quickly explain them. All vocab is just every single piece of vocab you've ever added to the database. Today is just any words that are due for review today based on the spaced repetition method. Flashcards is a visual gallery view just to see all words that you've ever created but have their English translations hidden. If you do want to see the English translation and test that you've got it right, you can click this checkbox and it will show up underneath. If you just unclick it, it'll disappear again. Incomplete is any vocab that you've entered that doesn't have a link to an English translation, a part of speech, or a resource. If you add everything to this, it will disappear from this view just so that you can quickly see which things you are missing information on. So if we add noun and textbook 1, it'll disappear from this view. Then we have need example. I made this separate from the incomplete just because I don't always make example sentences and they take a lot longer, and I didn't want the incomplete to be cluttered up with just things that needed examples. So I created this separate view so that I can go through and create examples during a later date. So if we open this vocab and go through all the properties, we have the English translation, which we looked at before when we added it from the note. We have the part of speech, which I have just sort of the 5 classic parts of speech added, but you can add more if you use more. The example sentence is just a blank text area that you can type in whatever language you need. There's the resource and the note that it's linked to. If you're adding the vocab straight from this page, you'll need to do this manually, but if you add the vocab from the note or from the resource, this will automatically be linked. This checkbox is for those gallery views such as on this page and on the home page where you can tick to see the English translation. And when you tick, it'll show up in this formula called card check. Next, we have date wrong and level. These will automatically default to the day you made the card and level 1 when you first make the card. And then based on these 2 pieces of information, the formula here, next check, will tell you when you next need to see the vocab. Lastly, this checkbox here is for if you get a piece of vocab wrong and you check that, and it will reset both date wrong and level. So if I show you on my vocab page, you can see there are 1,000 pieces of vocab. So when you get to this point, you can't remember if you've made the word for something. So say I want to add a new vocab for cat. If I go into the English section, all this stuff up here is in Korean to try and influence me to see it more. So this is just English translation. If I type in cat, I see here that it already exists. So I can either delete this or just keep it for now. And you can search in the search bar for cat. And I can see down here that cat exists. I could then click on the resource or the note section and link it to the current note or resource that I'm adding vocab to so that you can see it again in that area. As you can see, it's a lot easier to see when you only have a few words in your vocab list. This is more for when it is a lot deeper into study like I am and have so much vocab that you can't remember what you have added. You can also hide this word bank if you just want the vocab list. I've put it in a toggle for that reason, as on my page I don't need to see the English very often, but you can also just keep it open if you want to see it. The next page is journal. This is a very simple page. It's just a place where you can write down entries in your target language so that you can practice typing more intricate sentences and paragraphs and see how you go throughout time. You can add topics if you want to filter by that. This was just something extra I added in case you wanted to see that. Once you finish typing in your target language, you can use Notion AI or any other AI program to give you feedback on what you have written. Just note, especially if you're earlier in your learning, that it's not always 100% accurate with AI programs, and so corrections that I give you will have to take with a grain of salt. So then We have culture notes. This is very similar to the journal. It's just a simple page where you can put in different things. I did this because when you're learning a language, it's also very important to immerse yourself in the culture of that language, as the language and the culture of a specific group is integral to learn together. This can be little tidbits, important things, whatever you want to remember. It has no properties, it's just a simple page to jot down notes. So next we have study log. This is just the database that the calendar view on the home page is reading from. We went through how it all worked on the home page, so I won't explain it here, but this is where you can find any sessions that have been entered in case you forget to add a date or forget to add some other information and you need to locate it this way rather than on the calendar. Then we have study tracker. This is linked to this study summary that I was talking about on the homepage. In the template, I've added 2025 and all the months. However, if you buy this at a different time or you want a different set of time periods, you can just add them in yourself. Last year, I even added separate weeks of the year, but I found this wasn't helpful for the amount of studying I was doing in a week and made it very clunky to change past time periods when I was within creating notes in the calendar. So as you can see, any notes that you've created and linked to a certain time period will show up in this study log section. These two formulas then total for every single study session, how many hours and minutes you've spent. So you can see currently it says 1 hour 30 just from this first session we put in. If we add a time period into this new page, say 60 minutes, so 1 hour in this study, 1 hour and a half in the other study, it automatically updates to 2 hours and 30 minutes. This is why you need to make sure that any session you create is tagged with the right study period. Otherwise, these calculations will obviously be incorrect if you study in June, but it's tracked for May. So I've set these up as a parent entry and sub items, just so you can easily hide them once you complete a year. However, unfortunately, in gallery views, it will only show parent items. So if you do want to show a month as well as the year, what you can do is drag it out and it'll become a parent property itself. And then for the case like me where you have multiple years in the tracker, I've also created this checkbox so that, say if you had 2024, you're not seeing 2024 all through 2025 as well, but you can keep the data to check back in when you're in the future. So you click this show button, and then if we go back to the home page, you'll now see June and 2025. If you want to change their order, you can just drag and drop them like this to the way that you want to see them. So now you can see in 2025, we studied for 2 hours and 30 minutes. And in June, we've studied for 2 hours and 30 minutes. If we quickly add one session into May and give that 35 minutes, you'll see now that I have not tagged this correctly. You'll see that I made the classic mistake of forgetting what I put in my template. And so I've linked it accidentally to June and May, but that's fine. You can just unlink it from the wrong place and it'll automatically update. But now you can see, if we go back to the home page, that we've studied for 3 hours and 5 minutes in total in 2025, but only 2 hours and 30 minutes in June. So this is how you can have a general overview of how you're doing this month and how you're doing overall this year. When you are done seeing a month, you can untick it and drag it back into the year it came from so that you can keep track of what month came from what year. If you have multiple years, it may start getting confusing having the same names for the same month. So you could just add in 25 or 2025 just so that you can keep track. Or you could always delete all these months and just show how much you had for that particular year when you're in the next year. It's up to you on how you want to keep your data. Then we have learning types. This is just from in a note or in a study log is the relation to here. This is just so if you particularly want to find notes that you've done on speaking or grammar, you can come to this area and find anything you've tagged with that learning type. They don't really do much other than that. I don't really use them often myself, and you could also always change these to other different types of learning types that you use that may be more searchable or something that you come back to more often. It's up to you. Final page is resources. This is where you can add anything that you've used to study with, whether it's a textbook, an app, a YouTube video, an online course, whatever. Split into two views, active and inactive. That's so when you've been studying for a long period of time like I have and you've finished a textbook or finished a course, you can mark it as inactive, and that way you will only see in this view resources that you are currently using, and it'll just keep it a bit cleaner for you. So if we go into textbook 1, I'll explain all the properties. So there is resource type, which is a drop down. I've just added a few different options and you can add your own if you use them. So this is a textbook. The URL for if it's some sort of online resource like a YouTube video or a course, you can add it in here so you can quickly access it. Then we have current and total. This is helpful for if it's, say, I've used it for a YouTube playlist so that I know what number of videos I've finished watching, or if it's a textbook, you can see your percentage complete. So let's say we've finished unit 1 and there's 15 units. It will then calculate the percentage you've completed of this resource so that you just have a visual way to see how far through you are. You then can see all the vocab that you've tagged for this resource just as a list in case you need to see. It is also shown down here in the template. It automatically generates a table that shows every single vocab that you've created under this resource tag. Then there is the status that I was talking about before that divides it into these two views. So we are currently doing textbook 1, so it's active. The way that I've done these filters is that anything that's marked with active will show up in active. Anything that's marked with inactive or nothing will show up in inactive. This is just the way that it works well for me. You could always change the template so anything you create is automatically marked with active, or you could change the filter so that anything that's empty also shows up in active. Lastly, we have just 2 of the relation properties shown down here. So any notes that you create tagged to this resource and any study logs tagged to this resource will show up here so you can see everything that you've done under this resource. For some resources like listening practice with a YouTube video, I don't need to make a note. So I find that I will come to this resource vocab table and just add all the new vocab I learn from within here itself. I can also use this to take any notes about certain grammar points if I learn them from here, or if I find that I'm learning enough, I will then create a note itself. And that is everything in this language learning template. I've enjoyed using this page since I've created it, and I think it's helped improve my Korean skills. If you're learning a language yourself, I definitely remember this template, or you can even make one of your own that suits you. If you'd like to purchase this template, you can find it on my Etsy shop, right at the top, right next to my content planner and trip planner. Good luck in your language learning journey. Let's do this together. Comment down below what language you are learning and what stage you are at so you can find some new friends to connect and learn with. Click here to watch another video in my Notion series, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!